Alright guys, so in today's video we're going to be going over a few things. The first thing I want to take some time to talk about, and I've been wanting to take some time to talk about for a little while now, has to do with a Demon Souls remaster and how, even though it's still a rumor, it is pretty much confirmed, and we're going to go over that. This is something I have been wanting to talk about for a little while here, but we've been getting a ton of news regarding The Last of Us Part 2, and frankly I thought that took priority. But the other thing we're going to talk about happened just yesterday, where apparently Shawn Layden is departing Sony, and this is somewhat abrupt and seemingly just out of nowhere, and we're going to go over that. A lot of people have been asking me to give my thoughts on it, so if you're interested in that, stick around for the entire video. But first, I want to dive in here to this Demon Souls remaster. Now, this information, this is something that I picked up on before any articles were actually written about it. Again, I tweeted about it as soon as I heard it because I was just really surprised that Colin Moriarty, if you know who he is, he does the Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast. He pretty much made it clear for anybody who, can put two and two together. He made it pretty clear that he was referring to a Demon Souls remaster that he knows is in the works, and frankly, he was expecting to be announced at the most recent PlayStation State of Play. And so it says that the rumors just won't go away. Speaking on the Sacred Symbols podcast, PlayStation sage Colin Moriarty admitted that he had expected the title to be announced during this week's State of Play, and he's quoted with saying, "There was one game in particular, a remaster coming out for PlayStation 4, that I thought they were going to announce today, but they didn't. I don't know what they are waiting for with that one. Let's just say the soul still burns with that one." Now, what's very interesting about this is the context to him saying this. He was actually answering a question from a fan asking him about the PlayStation 5 launch lineup and whether or not we can expect remasters, and he was explaining, which I think is kind of obvious, but some people I guess might not think about it this way. He was explaining that when it comes to the PlayStation 5 launch lineup, the only way we could really see remasters, and it would be justifiable, is if it's for older games, like significantly older games, because we know that the PlayStation 5 will play PS4 games natively, so it's not going to make any sense for Sony to do something like a Last of Us Part 2 remaster or a God of War 2018 remaster, because, if anything, they can just patch the games to make them run better on the PlayStation 5, or maybe the PlayStation 5 will just simply, because it's going to be that much more powerful, it will just run the games better, just by playing them on the PlayStation 5. And that is what led him to talk about this, because he was basically looking at Demon Souls and saying, well, Demon Souls is an older title. It's a game that a lot of people, as he put it in his podcast, he believes a lot of people would gravitate towards now, and it would find much more success today because of just how big the following for From Software games is now, with Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro and the upcoming Elden Ring. And even though we know From Software wouldn't have any involvement in it, we know that it would most likely be Blue Point Games doing this. And for anybody who's wondering why this is pretty much confirmed, I mean, when he says at the end, let's just say the soul still burns with that one, come on, there's only one game he's talking about here, and all of us pretty much know exactly which game it is. And what's very interesting is that he was expecting it to be announced, and apparently this is a project that is pretty far along. We know that Blue Point has most likely been working on it for a good while now, and at this point, I would assume, honestly, that Sony is choosing to save it for the PlayStation 5 launch. And I think that would be a really, really smart move on their part, because let's face it, guys, they're going to remaster this game. Not even remaster. Let's not call it a remaster, because it's a remake. Like, when you look at what Blue Point Games said about the project they're currently working on, which is this Demon Souls remake, they said that this is the biggest undertaking they've ever done, where this is a complete, from the ground up remake, but it's obviously going to retain what made Demon Souls, like that gameplay, that From Software feel of the game. But it's clear that they're putting a lot of work into this one, and it would just make a lot of sense, in my opinion, for Sony to want to save it for the PlayStation 5 launch. I mean, we don't know exactly what to expect when it comes to the PlayStation 5 launch. We don't know if Sony's going to be doing exclusive only games, like if they're going to have PS5 titles that you can only play on PS5. I really don't know. I think that that's going to be one of the biggest questions. And so if they haven't announced it yet, maybe there's a good chance that this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be a PS5 only title and they're going to utilize it as a system seller. It is possible. I don't know how likely it is because, again, we have to think about sales numbers here. It's a matter of, is this going to be the type of game that's going to be a system seller at launch? Frankly, I think it has potential. I don't know if a game like Demon Souls, even with how big and how popular From Software games are now, I don't know if that would be like the only game they could have. I think they would have more than Demon Souls. But I am just incredibly excited for this to basically be a reality because I'm a big fan of the Dark Souls games. I absolutely loved Bloodborne. I haven't played Sekiro yet, but I am looking forward to Elden Ring. And so I really just can't wait to see what they're going to do with this game. And I'm going to be really interested, honestly, to see exactly how Sony chooses to utilize it. But make no mistake, this is Colin Moriarty pretty much low-key confirming what we've all been thinking for a while, where, yeah, it's a Demon Souls remake, or as he calls it here, a remaster, and it's very obvious who would be making that. Blue Point Games would be making it, and, the fact that he said he is surprised it hasn't been announced yet tells us that it's pretty far along in development, and in my opinion, it also does kind of tell us that this is either going to be a game that comes out sometime next year, or it's going to be a PS5 launch title. And honestly, if I had to choose, I would love for it to be a PS5 launch title. Because you just imagine that would be absolutely amazing. I would be insanely excited for that. But it's going to happen at some point. For anybody who's been waiting for it, just be patient. The time will come. Sony knows that they have something here with Demon Souls. Because for anybody who doesn't know, just a little bit of a history here, I'm sure a lot of you do know. But Demon Souls is owned by Sony, and when they partnered with From Software way back when, this was like during the PlayStation 3 generation, they pretty much, Sony that is, believed that it wasn't really going to be a success, and then they noticed there was a little bit more of a demand for it, and now they saw when From Software departed from Sony, they did their own thing with Dark Souls. We saw how popular that became, and Demon Souls is essentially Dark Souls before Dark Souls, so it just makes sense that Sony would want to capitalize on this and do something with it. But anyway, moving on from that, to kind of round out this video, I did tell you I was going to talk about Shawn Layden leaving Sony, and this just kind of happened again somewhat abruptly. So it says, in an unexpected post on Twitter this evening, PlayStation has announced the departure of Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios chairman Shawn Layden. Those of you who have been following the platform holder over the past 5 years will recognize the executive from various E3 press conferences, but his tenure at the Japanese giant dates all the way back to the 1980s. I believe he's been with the company since 1987, which is a very long time, pretty much almost his entire career. And they put out a tweet, PlayStation that is, put out a tweet, and it says, "It is with great emotion that we announce that Worldwide Studios chairman Shawn Layden will be departing SIE. His visionary leadership will be greatly missed. We wish him success in future endeavors and are deeply grateful for his years of service. Thank you for everything, Shawn." At the time of this publication, the nature of Layden's departure is unclear and his replacement is yet to be named. So for anybody wondering what his role was, he basically dealt with overseeing the entire first-party studios, the thing that matters most to us. So it is a pretty big move. We can't deny that this is significant, but what's really interesting about it is how abrupt it is and just seemingly out of nowhere. Now, the most important thing I need to say here and highlight is that we do not know why. Okay, and I don't know if we're going to know why. And this is why I'm really not trying to be too speculative on reasonings, because it literally could be something as simple as he wants to retire. You see he's been with the company for a very, very long time. It literally could just be he decided, you know what, things are in a good spot. I'm going to gracefully bow out and retire and enjoy, retirement. It could be that. It could be there was internal strife that we don't know about, and maybe he low-key kind of got pushed out. I don't think that's likely at all, because we look at the success that Sony's been having, as him as, in this role. I don't think that's likely at all. It could be something beyond that. It could be something, he's just looking to move on to something new. We really don't know, but I've seen some people really try to run with this and make it seem like it's doom and gloom for some reason. But this is why I was even not even considering covering this, is because like this literally happens all the time. You know what I mean? Like executives, they come into positions, they move around, they leave companies, they go on to different things. It's really not that big of a deal until we know why it happened. Why would I have no reason to assume it's anything negative other than it's just something that happened. It is what it is. There's going to be a replacement. Shawn Layden definitely clearly did a good job, and so I guess the only real concern is you have to wonder whoever his replacement is going to be, who is it going to be, first of all, and are they going to be able to do as good of a job? And I will say that it is also worth noting that it's interesting that a replacement hasn't been announced yet. That, again, kind of reaffirms just how abrupt this is. So, in my opinion, it seems like something may have happened just because of how random this is, but I don't know if we're going to know about it, and frankly, I don't even know if it's going to be relevant. Some people are pointing out that this is happening, too soon to the PlayStation 5 release, and that's a bad sign, but I don't necessarily think so. I think that's just being overly pessimistic, if I'm being honest, but I don't want to sit here and make it sound like that this couldn't be a sign of anything, because it could be. But again, we only have one piece of information, and that is he's leaving. That's all we have, and so I can really only speculate so much. What I'm going to be paying attention to, frankly, is are we going to learn anything else over the coming weeks? And if we do, I think that will kind of give us a good indication, because again, he could just be retiring. Now, they didn't put it that way. They didn't make it seem like he's retiring. They just made it seem like he's departing the company, but we don't know yet. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say, first of all, about the Demon Souls Remaster and how pretty much Colin Moriarty, in his most recent podcast, confirmed it. Not only confirmed it, but basically said he already expected it to be announced by now. Does that make you believe it's going to end up being a PS5 game? And let me know what you think about Shawn Layden's abrupt departure from Sony. Do you think that maybe it is a bad omen, that it's a bad sign, or do you think that, these things just happen? He's been with the company for 30 years, and he's just either retiring or moving on. I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or if you found it informative. Really helps me out, lets me know you guys are enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.